Well, hello there. Welcome to week 10. We've made it through the midterm. We've made it through the intros. We have made it through our quantitative and qualitative critiques, and hopefully y'all are gearing up for chats and for that lit review that's due next week on the 14th of April. Let me just talk to you a little bit about what you're going to be reading about this week, and a little bit about the chats, because I know a lot of you are anxious to know more information about those. This week you're going to be reading about scales and indexes and the differences between the two. Oftentimes you'll see them used interchangeably, but there are some differences, and Babby illuminates that for us very clearly in the book. Once again, I'm not going to go into great detail about the actual topics this week because I think the book does a really good job. So read the book. You're probably going to have to read the chapters more than one time to really get it. This is not a content area that you can just kind of skim and really get it. So read the chapter, take a few days to digest it, and then read it again and sort of see what things come up for you. Try to do that before taking the quiz. I think that will help you a bit. And you'll also be reading about sampling. And as you know, many of you may have critiqued sampling in your article critiques of the quantitative articles. Usually when we ask students to critique a study, that's the first thing they go to. Sampling. Oh, it's not generalizable. It can't generalize to the larger population because of the sample. So you're going to get to read in depth about that. And a lot of times students kind of grab onto that because they know it's the right answer, but they don't exactly know why it's not the best sample, most representative sample. So through reading chapter 7 this week, I think you'll have a much clearer idea of the importance of sampling, how to sample, what you're looking for in a good sample and a generalizable sample. So again, I think the book is very clear. So if you don't get it the first time, the first pass, read it again. And I think that will become clear to you. Now, in regards to the chats that we're doing this week, you will be assigned, and as we've mentioned we've updated Blackboard to let you know, originally we were going to have you to come to 2 separate chats and talk in one about your quantitative article and in another about your qualitative article, and they were worth 30 points each. What we decided to do, we were thinking about in terms of your time, it's really hard to get to one chat sometimes, let alone 2. So we decided to combine them into one chat that we were 60 points. So you get 30 points from discussing your quantitative and 30 points from discussing your qualitative, but they'll all happen in the same chat session. And hopefully that makes it easier for you to schedule and easier for you to get to those chats. The sign up for the chats are up on the discussion board, and many, if not all of you, have already signed up for your time. You will see your moderator in your chats will be either me or Alan, our TA, depending on which time you choose. We've divided those up into different times. I believe I'm doing the Wednesday chats, and the Thursday morning chat, and then Alan, I think, is handling the rest. When I say Tuesday, I mean there aren't any on Tuesday the 31st. I mean Wednesday, the 1st of April, April Fool's Day. There really are chats that day, 3 of them. So I'll be doing those chats, and I'll be doing those chats from. I'll be off working from home that day because of some childcare issues. So I will have to apologize ahead of time if there are little distractors around the place. Luckily, it's just a typed chat, so you won't see them running past the screen or anything like that. But we will be having those chats. Now, people want to know how to prepare for those chats. Your preparation for the chats really was writing the critique. You have already critiqued your articles. You've read them. I want you to consider yourself the expert on the articles that you read. You're the only one probably that comes to the chat that will have read these. So we're going to depend on you to provide a credible and critical analysis of that article. So you'll come to the chats. You'll need to be prepared to talk about both your qualitative and your quantitative articles. Alan and I will participate as facilitators or moderators. We're not going to be especially throwing out questions for you, trying to trip you up or anything like that. We're just going to kind of go on there and say, hey, who wants to discuss their quantitative article first? And then somebody will say, well, I read this article about XYZ, and I thought it was a good article, and here's why I thought it was a good article. Or, I was really disappointed in this article, and here's why. Most often you're going to have positives and negatives in any article you read. Even articles that are published have limitations. That's why, you know, you read in the discussion section of every one of them, limitations of this study are blah, blah, blah. Now in the chat, and hopefully in your critique you did this too, if you cite limitations that the authors cite, you need to let us know that that's their idea, not that it was yours. Even if you agreed with it, they were the ones who identified it. So you need to be clear about which of the critical evaluations are yours and which ones are coming from the authors themselves. We'll also want you to explore a little bit about the differences between the qualitative and the quantitative in terms of purpose, scope, sampling. What was their intent? Obviously not to generalize if we're doing qualitative. So you'll need to be able to understand what are some of those intrinsic differences are between a quantitative and a qualitative piece. And we'll be looking for that to come through in your chats when you're sort of comparing and contrasting your two articles. But that's really pretty much what it's going to be. They'll last about an hour long. With more people, they'll be closer to an hour. With fewer people, we might finish. If there's a chat with just 2 people in it, we might finish much sooner than that. But plan on about an hour when you come to chat, and be ready to sit down and really have a discourse with each other. The purpose of this is in class. If we were in a face-to-face class, we would all sit and discuss our articles and ask each other questions and really have that dialogue. In an online environment, we don't have that. I feel like sometimes y'all are out in your own little places, and maybe sometimes you don't get that sense of community that a lot of times you can get in a face-to-face class. So through these chats, we want you to feel connected with your peers. We want you to sort of hear what other people are doing and reading about and interested in and what they thought about something. Sometimes some of the best ways to learn is from hearing how a peer understands something. So we're trying to give you that opportunity in these chats. So come to the chats, not sweating it. This is not a test. Alan and I are not going to be throwing out questions and trying to trip you up or see if you know the right answer. We will simply be facilitating a conversation, a group discussion between you and your peers. So just come knowledgeable about your articles. And if you've already read them, you've already critiqued them. So you should be well prepared. If you want to have your articles, your critiques printed out and sitting in front of you to refer to, that's perfectly fine. It's not a test. It's a discussion. It's a class discussion that we will have online in a virtual environment. So hopefully that helps put your mind at ease a little bit about these chats. You'll find this is probably one of the less difficult assignments that you'll have in the class. You're working hard on that lit review. Hopefully last week's session really helped you in figuring out how to write that lit review. I had one person ask me for a video Q&A on the discussion boards, and I wrote back, okay, but let me know if the information from week 9 answers those questions for you or not. So if you are still in need after last week of a video Q&A on the lit review, by all means go to the board, put it up there, and I will happily make one. I just wasn't, but be sure you kind of give me some specific areas to address. So that I don't just repeat what's in the syllabus and what was in week 9. So happy to do it if you still need it, but the question had come before week 9, before the student knew what the topic was and what the content would cover, so that may not still be needed. But if it is, absolutely ask for it. I'm happy to do it, happy to explain anything that needs explaining, further explaining. Hopefully by the time that you are viewing this, everybody has gotten their introductions back. It takes me a long time because I put feedback in every single paper. I type right into the text, what does this mean, or I don't understand this, or this is a great place to put this. So it's taking me a little bit longer than it might take other professors, and that's the reason. I also was, for spring break I was in Chicago with no internet access, interestingly enough, unless I wanted to pay a small fortune each day. So didn't get to do any grading over spring break, and I apologize for that. But hopefully the lit reviews will be easier to grade because you will have had some feedback on the intros. When you turn in your lit review, please be sure to include the revised intro. So the intro that you did and submitted and I gave you feedback on, make those corrections, make those revisions, and include those in with the lit review. So when you turn in your lit review, you'll really have your intro and your lit review. But you're not recreating the intro, the lit review is the new part. I'll still read the intro because when it's time to turn in your whole proposal, it all needs to go together. So this way you can just be going in steps, just revising as you go. So for the lit review assignment due on the 14th, just start your lit review at the end of that intro, but make the revisions that I requested in that introduction because I'll be looking to see that you've done that. And if you have any questions at all, as always, email, get on the Q&A boards, let us know what we can do to help you. Have a great week.